All right, so when you think of Dracula, what comes to mind? A cape? Fangs? Well, forget all of that. The vampire you think you know, he's just a shadow. The real Dracula was a 15th century prince, and his true story, the one actually written in blood and history, is way more terrifying than any myth.
So that's the big question, right? Was this just a man forged by a really brutal era, or was he a monster hiding in plain sight? We're about to look at the evidence, piece by horrifying piece, to uncover the truth behind the legend. And I think you'll agree, reality can be so much more frightening than fiction.
Okay, let's go back. Our story starts way back in 1431. The man we now know as Dracula was born with a much simpler name, Vlad. And you gotta understand, he was born into a world of constant conflict, a Christian kingdom that was always battling the expansion of the powerful Ottoman Empire.
So where did that infamous name even come from? It actually had nothing to do with being a creature of the night. His father was part of an elite knightly order, the Order of the Dragon. See, Dracul meant dragon. So Vlad simply took the name Dracula, which literally means son of the dragon. It was a name of honor, of legacy. The horror? Yeah, that would come later.
Everything took a dark turn when he was just a boy. Around age 11, in a desperate political move, Vlad's own father gave him and his brother over to the Ottoman Sultan as hostages. I mean, can you even imagine that kind of betrayal? Those years as a political prisoner didn't just shape him, they completely shattered something inside him, and what grew back was pure hatred. Now, while his brother Raju eventually adapted and even converted to Islam, Vlad's years as a prisoner did the exact opposite. They filled him with this burning, all-consuming hatred for the Ottomans, a hatred that he would unleash with unimaginable cruelty once he finally took power.
So picture this. Shortly after becoming ruler, some Ottoman envoys came to his court to demand he pay a tax. When they entered his presence, Dracula demanded they remove their turbans as a sign of respect. They refused, explaining it was against their religious custom.
Dracula's response was just chilling. He told them he would help them uphold their custom, and then he ordered his guards to nail the turbans directly to their skulls. That was his message to the Sultan, a message written in blood and iron.
And you see, this wasn't just about politics or power. This was deeply personal. That childhood trauma, the betrayal, the torment, it festered. As one source puts it, he became a mental patient who found peace in giving people horrific punishments. His only relief came from inflicting terror.
This obsession with punishment led him to develop a signature method of execution, one so horrific it would earn him the name he's most known for in history, Vlad the Impaler.
Impalement wasn't designed for a quick death. No way. It was designed for maximum prolonged agony. A sharpened stake was forced through the victim's body. They were then hoisted into the air and just left to die. And this process could take hours, sometimes even days.
And his cruelty wasn't just for his enemies. His own people lived in absolute terror. The story goes that one day he saw a peasant working in the fields in ragged clothes. Dracula summoned the man and simply asked, "Are you married?" When the man said yes, Dracula sent for his wife.
He accused her of being lazy and worthless for not keeping her hard-working husband well-dressed. The farmer begged for her life, insisting she was a good wife. Dracula just laughed and said he would find him an even better one. He had the woman impaled right there, then forced the terrified farmer to marry another woman immediately, warning her of the same fate if she didn't take better care of him.
But here's the thing. Impalement was just his signature. It was far from the only horror he devised. For Dracula, torture wasn't just punishment, it was entertainment, a sport, and his creativity was boundless.
I mean, he would skin people alive, boil them, chop off their limbs. He reportedly roasted victims and forced their families to eat the flesh. His cruelty extended to animals, plucking birds feather by feather, nailing mice to boards. Absolutely no one was safe, not even children.
He also loved to play these twisted games, testing people's morality with their lives on the line. A visiting merchant reported 160 gold coins stolen. Dracula promised to find the thief. The next day, the money was returned to the merchant's room, but now there were 161 coins.
And this single extra coin, that was everything. It wasn't a mistake. It was a test of the merchant's honesty. The merchant, confused, counted the coins again and again before going back to Dracula.
So the merchant, nervously, told Dracula there was one coin too many. And Dracula just laughed. He told the merchant, "If you had not told me the truth, I would have had you impaled with the thief." He was just looking for an excuse. The merchant had passed the test, but just barely.
A reign of such relentless terror could not last forever. Eventually, the Ottoman Empire had enough, and they mounted a massive campaign to finally remove Dracula from power. But his ultimate defeat, it came from a place he'd never expected.
The Ottoman army that came for him was led, in part, by a familiar face, Dracula's own brother, Radu. The boy who had adapted where Vlad had raged, his own blood helped orchestrate his downfall. Dracula was cornered and finally defeated.
And his punishment? Well, it fit his crimes. He was beheaded, and his head was sent to the Ottoman capital. There, it was impaled on a stake for all to see. The Impaler was impaled. So the man was dead, but this is where history ends, and the legend truly begins. You see, his death wasn't the final chapter. It was the start of an enduring mystery.
His headless body was reportedly buried in a monastery. But here's the unsettling final detail. Just a few days later, when the grave was opened, it was empty. His body was gone, and to this day, no one knows what happened to it.
And that disappearance fueled centuries of superstition. This final mystery blurs the line between the monstrous man and the immortal vampire. So the question remains, was his death the end of a terrifying reign, or was it simply the beginning of a legend that would never truly die?